The first thing we'll need to do for our book design is to download the pages for our book. Find the project files for the book design, clicking on that. Then click on the appropriate book that you're downloading. For instance, I'm using the War of the Worlds. Now this will download a zip file, and I've already got it down on my desktop, and I've opened the folder. Inside of the folder, there will be two things. First of all, the text of the folder, and this is just a plain text document, and also another folder that will have images inside of it. And these will be images that we'll use within the book, and we'll get to that later. The second thing you may want to download are the step-by-step instructions that go along with this video. You can find these under the project exercises. In our case, we're going to be doing the layout of book pages PDF. When you download it, it should look something like this. And this will go step by step, giving you a text reference to go to for each of these next coming steps. The first thing we're going to do to set up our book is to create a new document. For this document, your book is going to be 5 inches wide by 8 inches tall. So naturally the size of it needs to be typed in. Also, we want to turn on facing pages, but we don't know how many pages we're going to need. So I'm going to add a primary text frame. This will add a text frame to every page that we create and will automatically flow the text from one page to the other as overset text is done. We'll see that in just a minute. Second, to set up your margins, this I'm going to leave up to you. A good book, remember, has margins on the outside that are a little bit thicker than on the inside. Also, you may want to give a little more room at the bottom than the top. Later on, I'll show you how you can set this up or change this as necessary. But for now, I'm going to set, say, my top margin. I'm going to unlink this to 0.25. Maybe my bottom margin will have 1 inch. My inside will be 0.25. And I'll keep an outside margin of 1/2 inch. Now, since I don't have any images that will bleed all the way to the edge, I don't really need to worry about bleed and slug. But if you do want to have overset images, you may want to add 1/8 of an inch bleed to your document. We'll say OK. Give it just a second, and this is the way it's set up. Notice in our Pages dialog box that this is our first page, and since we have it set up in facing pages format, every time we create a new page, those subsequent pages will be placed side by side. Also notice if I click on the center, I've got a text box. If you look in the very top left-hand corner, this little icon indicates that the page will automatically flow my text from one page to the other as I place stuff inside of it. Now let's move on to the second part of placing our text into the text box. To place your text, we're going to select the first page and click on the text document. Make sure you can see it highlighted and you can see the little icon at the top left-hand side. Then we'll go to File, down to Place, and find the text document that we downloaded. I know mine's on the desktop. Here's my War of the Worlds, and here's my War of the Worlds text that we're working with. I'm going to say Open, and it may take just a few moments, but Illustrator was going to take all of the text and automatically flow it into the pages that we have created. Notice now in my text or my pages box, I've got several hundreds, should be, there we go, 205 pages of text. All of this is not formatted. Later on we'll go back and format it, but it does stay within the boundaries of the document that we have set up. The next thing we need to do is to add our runners. The runners are the information that are either at the top or the bottom of our page, and this will give us the ability to change up our page spread as necessary. So to add runners or to change up your document, let's open our Pages palette and double-click on the A Master icon. This will bring up your master page spread, and any changes you make to this master page will be affected on all of your other pages. One of the first things I may want to do is to change my margins. I don't think I have enough room at the top, so I'm going to bring that down. I can also change up any other margin as well. The first thing I'll do is I'm going to click and drag just another guideline to give me some more space that I'll add at the top. Two things I need to change. First of all, I have my text box, so I can click on that and drag it down. Notice when I do that, my computer kind of slowed up a little bit. This is because it's changing up every page, and I've got 200 of them. Let's do the same on the right-hand side. Click and drag that down. I've changed the text box that I'm working in, but I also need to change the margins that I'm working in, the pink line at the top. To change your margins, first of all, select the master page that you want. I've got the one on the left. Then go up to Layout, down to Margins and Columns. And from here, I can change up the top margin. So in this case, I want it to be 1/2 inch. When I say OK, you can see it's been changed up from here as well. Let's do the same thing to the right side. Select in your master pages the right side, go to Layout, Margins and Columns, and then this too needs to be changed to 0.5 inches. And we'll say OK to that. So that's the first thing you can do as far as changing up the size of your spread. If I wanted to go back to a normal page, simply double click on any page, and you can see now those pages are also have thicker margins at the top. Let's go back into our master page. From here, I'd like to add a page number to every page that we're working on. Later on, I'll tell you how to change where your page numbers start, but let's just go ahead and add it to the bottom. I'm going to zoom down here at the bottom of this page, and I'm going to choose my text box, click and drag, and I'm going to type in a large number. The reason I do this is it'll give me some numbers to format, and I'll go ahead and make these the way I want them to be formatted. So for instance, I want it to be centered on my text box. Maybe I'll choose a font. Let's see, what's a good font? I like Century Schoolbook, and I want it to be bold. So that'll be my font that I want to have on each page. If I was to click on any page now, you can see the number 999 shows up on every page. Not exactly what I want. If I go back to my master page, I'm going to highlight my numbers, and I'm going to tell the computer to insert a special character, and this character will be whatever page number that it's actually on. To find this special character, go to Type, down to Insert Special Character, choose Markers, and choose Current Page Number. This will give us an A. The reason why it's an A is because we're in the A master. Now, every page that I go on that has this marker will give me the current page number. I do want to have another one on this page, so I'm going to Option Select, make a copy of it on both pages as well. Now let's go back into our pages, and you can see there's page 2 and 3, 4 and 5, 6 and 7, and so on all of our pages. Anything that we place on the master page will show up on our page that we're working on. So if I wanted to, say at the top, add the title of my book, I'm going to click and drag, make another text box. Let's say this is War of the Worlds. And I can format this one. This one will be italicized, and it'll be to the far left. Excuse me, far right. And maybe on the other page book, I want to have H.G. Wells. And he'll be left aligned. I could even add some sort of decoration. Maybe I'll move this up, choose my line tool, and draw lines out for each one. Part of this is just playing around and figuring out what works best for your layout. Come on now. When I go back into a normal page, you can see the information is on the same thing for every single page. Later on, like I said, we'll learn how to customize individual pages for different sections that you may have. If you want to preview your document, remember at the very bottom of your toolbox, you can click on this one, go into preview mode, and this will show you what your book looks like without all the margins and guides. You can also hit the W key. The next thing we need to do is to add some paragraph styles to our entire body copy. Since most of our book is made up of body text, the body copy is the most important paragraph style to use. To do this, we need to open up our Paragraph Styles dialog box. You can find that under Window, down to Styles, and choose Paragraph Styles. And we're going to drag it over here for now. What I like to do is to format just one paragraph and see how that compares to the other paragraphs. So for now, I'm just going to highlight this one paragraph, usually the first one, but it doesn't have to be. If I look at my paragraph styles, you can see I've got the basic paragraph format. This is just the default that comes to it. But I'm going to change it up. Let's go up here, and I'm going to choose a good body copy should have a serifed font. So we don't want to do it in Avenir or Futura. I like Century School Book. Bookman is also really good. Even Times New Roman is really good. Let's choose this. As far as the size of your font goes, you can go from anywhere from 10 points up to 14 points, but I like to be a little bit larger than 12 points. So I'm going to make mine 13 points, and I'm also going to give it a little bit more leading. You don't want to have so much leading that it's hard to read, but you don't want the paragraphs to be so close together that they're overlapping each other. So this looks pretty good for what I'm working with. Notice how this paragraph reads a lot better than this paragraph. It's a lot larger. Now, because it's larger, there's fewer words on the page. So if you're trying to keep your page count low, you may want to keep it a smaller font. But since I'm satisfied with this, I'm going to highlight my text again, then go over to my Paragraph Styles dialog box and make a new paragraph style by clicking the bottom right-hand corner. And it's going to be called the Paragraph Styled 1. If I double-click, not on the name, but on the outside edge, this will bring up my Paragraph Styles option, and I can give it a name up here. So we're going to call this Body Copy. Also notice that all of the things that we've formatted for this paragraph can be found on this far left-hand side. So any changes that I need to do needs to happen within these paragraph options. We'll say OK. Now comes the fun part. Let's apply this style to the entire book. With my text box or my text tool selected, hit Command A. This will select all of your text. Then click on Body Copy. After just a few seconds, it'll apply that style to everything that's on your book. So if I was to scroll down, you can see now this is the way my book looks. Nice and big, same font, same size that I've set up from here. If I wanted to make changes now, don't select the text and then go make a change. Instead, I can double click on Body Copy. It'll open it up, and I can change it from here. If I turn on Preview, let's say I thought that the size was a little bit too big. So I'm going to go to my basic character formats, and let's change it down to 12 point. When I do this, all of my fonts will change back down to 12 points. If I wanted to change the leading, maybe give it a little bit closer, smaller leading, notice it changes up here as well. Another thing I want to change up is I don't like this alignment. I don't like it to be left aligned. I'd love for it to be justified alignment. And this is where our indents and spacing comes in. So instead of alignment left, we'll choose left justified. By changing up the paragraph style, this changes up everything that style has been formatted to. It's a great, quick way of changing everything in a book without having to hunt and find over 200 pages. We'll say OK. And now I've got my paragraph style set up. The next thing we'll need to do is to start editing up our book that we're working on. The raw text that I've given you has a problem with it. If we turn on our invisible characters, you can go to Type down to Show Hidden Characters. You can see that at the end of every paragraph, there's a double return. There's a paragraph return and another paragraph return. Now, this looks good and it's easy to read, but it's not good for the styling of our book. What I would like to do is to have a single return and then an indentation at the beginning of each of our paragraphs. Well, here's how we're going to do that. Rather than going through each and every page, first, let's open our body copy options by double-clicking, then going to the indents and spacing, and we're going to tell it to give it a first line indent for every paragraph that we have. Usually less than 1/4 of an inch tends to be best, so I'm going to give it just a little bit more. There we go. You can see now every paragraph has a little bit of an indentation, so we'll say OK. Now all I need to do is to find every place in my document that has a double return for a paragraph. To do this, we're going to go to Edit, down to Find and Change. Notice the keyboard shortcut is Command F. And this will bring up our Find and Change dialog box. So what we're trying to find under Find What is every time you hit the return key twice. Now, it's easy to find random words, but how do you find those special characters? To do that, look at the far right-hand side of the Find What field. When I click, these are the special characters that you can look for. Things like tabs, there's my end of paragraphs, even certain symbols and markers. So what I'm looking for are 2 end of paragraphs. And you can see this is the special character that it's looking for. We want to change this to a single paragraph, end of paragraph. Now if I hit Find, it'll go through and highlight every instance. Let's try to find another one. There we go. Every instance of a double return. If I hit Change All, it will go through and find and replace every instance of a double return and replace it with a single return. In my case, I found over 946 of them. When I say OK, let's see what our document looks like now. Perfect. I can close this out, and you can see now my entire document looks like a regular layout for a book. The next thing we'll need to do is to add proper page breaks between each of the chapters and areas within our book. If we look closely at our book, you can see that there's different sections or different chapters on all the pages, but they're all running together. For instance, this information needs to be on the title page, the table of contents needs its own page by itself, and each of the chapters needs to start on their own page. Here's how to add page breaks for everything that we're doing. So let's start off at the top. First of all, this is not what I want you to do. Do not simply hit a series of returns to push all of your content onto another page. The reason why is because when you start formatting that content, it'll add unnecessary spacing that you can't control. Instead, I'm going to delete all of these. Place your cursor at the end of where you want to end your section. Then we're going to add an end of page or a page break marker. Go up to Type, down to Insert Break Characters, and choose Page Break. Notice now, all of my content has now been broken and brought down to the next page. At the end of that document, I've got this little symbol. This is my page break symbol. So all I have to do is insert a page break wherever I needed the break to happen. So here's my table of contents. Let's add a page break at the end of it and the beginning of book 1. Place your cursor at the end, go to Type, Insert Break Character, Page Break. Now book 1 starts on its own page. Do the same thing for each one. Type, Break Character, Page Break. Now to go a little bit faster, let's go back up. I'm going to highlight this little page break character. Remember, if you don't see your invisible characters, you can go to Type and Show your hidden characters. With it highlighted, I can go to Edit and Copy. Now, all I have to do is to find wherever I need to break my text. So let's go to Chapter 2. Scroll carefully so I don't go. There's the end of Chapter 1. Since I've got my page break copied, I'll go to Edit and paste it in there, and now I've got Chapter 2 on there. Going to the end of each of your chapters, copy and paste in a page break so that the chapter starts on its own proper page. This may take a little while if you've got a lot of chapters, but it's well worth it in the end. The next thing we'll need to do is to add some styling to our chapter titles. And if you've done research, you know there's a variety of ways that we can style this out. So I'm just going to give you some examples of how to do this for your book. The first thing we need to do is make sure that your paragraph styles are open. Since we're applying the same style to every chapter, we want to make sure it's consistent and we want to be able to work quickly. Paragraph styles allow you to do this. Check out the way my author has sent me this file. I've got a Roman numeral for it, for the chapter number, and then I've got the title of it. I'm going to take some artistic liberty and I'm going to remove the Roman numeral by itself, and we're going to say chapter 1. It's the same information, I just want to call it chapter 1 since this is my book. The next thing I need to do is let's give it some styling. So let's say chapter 1, I want that to be nice and bold. We'll make it bigger. I'll even make it all caps. And I want the chapter name to be different as well. So I'm going to put this in a different font. I liked bicycle. We'll make it large. Now remember, the reason why it's overlapping is because my leading is too small. So you may need to change up both leading and size when you work on that. The next thing I want to do is to add some space between the top and the name of it and the body copy that I'm working in. Just as we don't add several spaces to space out your page information, we don't want to add several spaces to space out your chapter title. Instead, I'm going to hit, there we go, one return. I'm going to highlight this text and look at the options at the top right-hand side. In this case, I'm going to add some space after this text. This will add a little bit more space, and as I increase it, you can see it pushes that text down a certain bit. Same way if I wanted to add some at the top. Highlight chapter 1, and in this case, we're going to add some space before. By increasing that, that'll push that down as well. So this looks a lot better, and I don't have a variety of paragraph returns keeping this out of order. The last thing maybe I want to do is do something to this first particular paragraph that I'm working on. So I'm going to highlight this. Let's give it a drop cap. To do a drop cap, look at the very top, right underneath your space before and after. This will tell you how many lines you want to do it, and this will tell you how many characters you want to drop cap. In my case, I just want 1, and I want it to be dropped, say, 3 lines. Now check out the end that I have. First character is dropped, and it's going down automatically 3 different lines that I'm working on. Let's do something even more fancy. Let's say this one has a first line indent that goes almost all the way to the middle of my page. That looks pretty good by itself. Maybe a little bit more. There we go. All right, I've already got my chapter 1 saved, so now I need to save these paragraph styles. I'll select chapter 1, and in this case, I'll create a new one. Double click, not on the name, but out to this side, and we're going to call this chapter number. Say OK. We'll highlight the name of it, create another paragraph style, call this chapter name, CHA. And then I'll highlight this first paragraph and we'll call it first paragraph. And say OK as well. Now it's simply a matter of finding all of my chapter titles and then reformatting them to match this. So let's go and find chapter 2. There's chapter 2 right there. Now, right here I have in-text image. I know that's going to be an image, so I'm not going to format that. Any place you see in-text image and then gives you the name of the image, don't worry about that. Later on we'll go back and place the images inside of there. But in this case, I can highlight my first paragraph and apply the first paragraph style. I can reformat it. Remember, I need to type out chapter 2. I can highlight this and do my chapter name. And I can highlight this. Notice it gives me my space, highlight chapter 2, and do chapter number. Notice that I've done my chapter number, but it's still at the top of my page. It's not giving me all that space that I wanted. If this happens to you, if you've added space before or even space after, and it's not spacing out, here's the reason why. Place your cursor at the beginning of your document or the beginning of your chapter and hit return. It needs to have a paragraph to space before. In this case, it doesn't. It has just a page break. So having this little paragraph will give you the ability to have that space on top of it. Having these paragraph styles makes it so much faster and so much easier to have a consistent style throughout your book. Simply finding each of the chapter titles, applying the styles, and then moving forward for the next one. We're almost finished with the book. The final thing we need to do is to break your book into different sections, and these sections will affect the page numbering that we're working on. So for instance, this will be my title page once I get the information formatted. My title page starts on page 1 and it's got a runner at the top of it. What I want to have for my book is for page 1 to start at the beginning of chapter 1. And if I scroll down, you can see my chapter 1 actually begins on page 5. So here's how to tell InDesign to change the start of your page numbering. Open your Pages palette and find where you want to begin. In my case, I want page 5. Hold down Control and click on it, and then choose Numbering and Section Options. This will bring up our New Section dialog box. We're going to start a new section. In this case, it'll be the section that we selected. And we're going to start page numbering at page 1 there. When I say OK, this will give me a warning saying, hey, are you sure there may be 2 sections with the same number? We'll say OK. Now check out what we have. Page 1 is starting there, and all the other pages go down from there. Now we still have page 1 on my title page, all the way through 4 on my introductory pages. If I wanted to change this up, let's say I don't want my title page to even have a page number or a runner. Well, this is where the other master pages come in. I've got one that has none. If I click and drag the none on top of this top page, it'll apply that formatting to here. In other words, it has no formatting and keeps everything blank. So if I wanted to, I could highlight that and start formatting that as well. Another thing you can do is to change up the style of the page numbers. So in this case, instead of having the Arabic numerals for 2 and 3, let's say I wanted to convert those to Roman numerals. I'll go back to page 1, hold down Control and click, choose Numbering and Section Options, and in this case, we'll start numbering pages at 1, but change the style to lowercase Roman numerals. We'll say OK. Now check out what I've got. There's 1 and 2 and 3, and even 4, and whatever pages that I add after here will also be in Roman numerals as well. Once you finish with one layout, be sure to go to File and save it as Design 1. Since I've already saved up one design, I need you to make 2 more alternate layouts to your book. Now keep in mind, you don't have to go through every step. You've already got your text placed, you've already got paragraph styles created, and you've also formatted your master page. So to create an alternate style, go to File, Save As, and in this case we're going to save it as Design 2. We'll say OK. In Design 2, go through and change up the formatting of your chapter heads, your runners, your paragraph margins, all different things. Give me 3 total alternate layouts for each of your designs. You don't have to place any pictures in it for now. We will do that later. Once you're finished, go to the Moodle page and upload your 3 alternate page layouts.